And we're recording. Angela Hayes, thanks for being on Fitness and Consciousness.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. A little
Yeah,
surprised, but I will do my best.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. So you stay with people as they die, and
Yeah.
like what a beautiful thing. So how did you get into that? What made you, how long, when did you start, and like how did it happen?
Uh, okay. Well, it's an interesting story, actually, I think. Um, and maybe not all that uncommon. It's probably the idea started about 5 years ago when my mom died, and I think a lot of uh, people are triggered to do this kind of work when they've had a loved one pass. Um, but in my instance, I mean, I knew nothing about hospice, I think as many people don't. Um, I had a really interesting experience when my mom died, and she and I did not get along. She was, we kind of butt heads a lot. We didn't see eye to eye. Um, I was always trying to get her to get out of her shell. She was a very funny person, a very personable. People liked her, but she had a lot of anxiety. She had deep depression. She was an addict from the time I could remember. Prescription drugs were kind of her thing. But beautiful person though, and just very. She hurt a lot, and I just was always trying to get her to go somewhere she didn't want to go, and I just, wouldn't give up on that. So we never really saw eye to eye, and as she was dying, I got to spend a week with her about 2 weeks before she died, and the whole family was there, and she was changing. She was, she became probably more of the mom that I probably remember from childhood. She became very loving, and anyway, I wasn't there when she died. I was on an airplane, uh, and I found out at Chicago Airport. My brother called me, so I got home, didn't get to see her, and went to sleep that night. I woke up the next morning, and I probably cried for the first time in my life. I've always been the strong one in our family. You ask anybody in my family, I'm the fighter. I didn't cry growing up. Wasn't something I was going to allow myself to do. And I cried. And then I fell asleep, and I had a dream about my mom. And without going into all the details of the dream, one of the things that I heard in that dream from her was, "What was I afraid of?" And had you known my mom, those are words in that sequence that would never come out of her mouth, because she was petrified of everything.
Hmm.
And the other thing that happened in that dream was, when I looked at her, when I finally got to looking at her face, I was drawn into a light, almost like that white light that people talk about, near-death experience, or and all I can say about that light was that it was everything. It was pure love, pure joy. I guess another word for it is maybe nirvana. It was everything. I mean, it was overwhelming, and yet it wasn't. And don't know how long I was there. I mean, it felt like years that I was there, and I was finally drawn out somehow. And I saw my mom again in this dream state, and I laid on top of her. She was in this hospital bed, excuse me. And I said, "Mom, I know you're not here." And I woke up. And to be honest with you, from that moment on, my entire life has changed. Everything, the way I see life, the way I live life, the fact that I feel, I think there were many years due to my family situation and my upbringing, moving around, where I just chose not to feel anything. And all of a sudden, I don't even know what became clear, but something became clear. And so I've been doing this work a lot because I felt the sacredness of that space after death. And I know my mom had died the afternoon before, but she was still there. She was there enough to give me a gift, you know, something that she would have not have been able to do in life. It was, I believe, in a lot of ways, her way of telling me that she loved me, you know, and she knew I was here to do something, and she saw me, I believe, maybe falling into her patterns a little bit, you know. So I've come to really I don't know if it's want to be in that space. I'm just very drawn to it. I feel like it's a very sacred place, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm very comfortable there. And just as anybody, it might be good at, you know, web design or accounting. I feel like this is where I need to be. It's kind of and maybe I was always there. It just took that for me to realize that that's where I need to be. And I wouldn't say it defines me, you know, it just happens to be something that I'm very drawn to doing and have done quite a bit of since then. So actively, I've been doing this for about 4 years. And I work with a couple of families that I've been working with for over 1.5 years now. Still see them every once in a while in Indianapolis, even though I'm now here in Bloomington. I've worked No One Dies Alone at Eskenazi Hospital, where you'll sit vigil for people who don't have family or others to be with them, and they're within the last 24 to 48 hours of their lives. I sit vigil for hospice here when I'm called. I've actually since gone to training on home funerals and death care. Not that I'm going to, I don't know how I'll use that, or if I'll ever be called to use that, but I feel very strongly about that too, because especially with my experience with my mother, I know she hadn't left. She died, but she hadn't left yet. She was still there in some way. And even when we went to view her body, which was, you know, about 2 days after that, she was still there. You could still, it was palpable. You could feel her there, even though, you know, she had this body laying there. That wasn't her. And in Buddhist tradition and many other traditions, there's and we had been doing this for thousands of years until recent history, where you would lay a body in state for 3 days in a home. There's this understanding that maybe the soul doesn't quite leave just yet. It needs its time. And it also allows us that are still here to grieve. And grieving is another aspect of this work that I feel very strongly about, that we don't really have the opportunity to grieve like we should be able to. And a lot of times it helps to have that loved one with you in order for you to process that grief. We aren't afforded that opportunity very often, particularly the way the funeral industry is these days. And we just kind of whisk people away. So I've talked quite a bit. And I think I've gone all over the place, but yeah, I think there's a whole aspect of this is a sacred time. It's a rite of passage, not only for us as that are dying, but for those around us that must go through the grief. And some of us have to go through grief of the loss of a loved one more than others. And grief is not just the loss of a loved one, mind you. We suffer grief in many other ways, and that's another topic. But yeah, so does that answer your question?
Yeah. I have a lot of different kind of like facets of the whole thing in my mind
Okay.
and just kind of like
I touched on a lot.
yeah, and just kind of like getting your view of it, because I had actually looked into like volunteering to do the same thing, and then so I was looking at, you got to get all the shots and you have to do all the things. You're going to be at the hospital working, but I didn't follow through with it, but I was thinking about it. And at the time, this was maybe like a few years ago or so, 3-4 years ago, that I was looking into it. And I saw a documentary called I think it was like the Book of the Dead, or Tibetan Book of the Dead. Mm-hmm. So it was showing the people in Tibet, but it was also showing more like Western stories also, where like you might have, I think it was America, or at least like some Western, where like they would go and they would sit with people while they're dying. And this one guy that was doing it, a Westerner, was like asking them if they wanted him to read from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And even if they were like Christian or Jewish, or I don't remember all the specifics of it now, but they still wanted to hear it, even though it might not be their belief system.
Right.
He would read from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And so do you, like, what's your process? And like, maybe like if there's like your first time you're going to sit, 'cause it's one thing to like sit with like your grandma that's dying, or somebody that's in your family. Mm-hmm. But I mean, is it the first time you're about to meet someone? They're about to change words?
Well, I mean, I think there are different scenarios. I am, I'm a person that sits as a companion for people that are terminal, right? So my volunteer work is with hospice, and you need to be deemed by a doctor to have, 6 months or less to live in order to qualify for hospice. So you're not, unfortunately, too many people sign up for hospice care too late. My experience, however, has been quite extraordinary, I believe, in that my hospice career, and most of my time, has been spent in sitting in companionship with people who have actually lived beyond a year and a half. So I've sat with them and become almost part of the family on a weekly basis for 2 to 3 hours at a time. Basically just, I guess, maybe being a friend, right? The thing about when you're sick or you have a terminal illness, in so many ways, you become very isolated. People withdraw, and it can be very lonely, and so, a lot of my time has really just been there to be a friend, to be that consistent person that every week, on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I will be there,
Yeah.
And that's for the family, to offer them respite so they can leave and do the things they need to do, because they are under tremendous amounts of stress. But it's also for that person. Now, in sitting in a vigil situation, it's a little bit different. That's a situation where you don't know that person most of the time, in my case. So let's take an example. If I were to sit like with Noda, No One Dies Alone, at Eskenazi Hospital, you're going into a space where you don't know who this person is. You may not even know their situation. And in order to do that, my preparation is essentially to, I just drop myself. I was actually thinking about this because
you said drop yourself?
I drop out of myself. Yeah. You make space. You, I try to let myself go so that there's nothing, I try not to bring a whole lot of myself into that room. And that's just something that I've practiced over the past, I would say 4 years through various modalities, to honestly just be present for that person and that person only. And I don't do it alone. It's something that I call on, I guess the best way I can describe it is call on ancestors, call on others to help me, to be with me and this person, and that then allows myself to just kind of go away. And it's hard to maintain. It's not like I can do this for hours at a time. I'm not that skilled, but the idea is to simply be. And yeah. And that's all I feel I can do in that situation. There's really nothing to do except just sit in that space and time and be with that person in that space and time, because time changes.
Yeah, it's I would think it would be like, so my dad went to hospice. He died in 2005, and like at first they were coming to his apartment, and then he went to it's like the one by St. Vincent's on the north side off 86th Street on and so like the night before he died like the next morning, but I was there, and I was like, it was really late at night, and I was trying to like kind of sleep, but I was like sitting up in a chair, and not really trying to sleep, but kind of just whatever. It's such a altered state of consciousness
right.
at the time. And it has like these big hospital doors, these big heavy doors, and
right.
The door opened, and then a few moments later, the door closed. No one in a solid body came in. There was no draft, or there was no like wind. There was no, it was just this heavy door just opened slowly.
Yeah.
And then left. And the lady that was staying, or like the nurse or whatever she was saying that I think it was like her mom's birthday or her death day or something like that. But she thought that her mom, who had died however long before, kind of like helped people, like transition, came in there. So I was wondering like what that was. So in my mind, like who was that? Like some spirit or whatever that opened the door and closed. They could have got it if you are a spirit, you could probably do that without opening the door and close. But then I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have had any kind of experience like that if they didn't show me something. Yeah. And it didn't look like if some human form opened the door and closed the door, it just wouldn't move like that. Or if the wind did it, or if I could see the door top to bottom. And
yeah.
So do you have these like experiences, maybe not like that, but do you have like these other signs. You're talking about like, you know, asking like the ancestors to help, and you're holding space or making space, which is like that term is something I've thought about a lot, because I hear a lot of like kind of like spiritual people talk about that. I was like, what does that really mean to hold space? And I've kind of like thought about it differently, and like what it means and how like powerful of a concept that is. So, but do you have like these?
Have I had experiences that I can't explain, essentially? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes. And there's so much we can't explain, and there's so much we don't know. I believe in the mystery, and I believe in mystery, and we don't have it all figured out. And I think that's part of the beauty of life, and the part of the beauty of our experience. It's food for the soul. I grew up being a very I'm hard to convince. I was not. My daughter says I'm way too spiritual. she gets on me. I don't think I am. I really don't. But apparently, I'm way too spiritual.
How old is she? I mean, Carter.
She's 14. Okay. So I have a 16-year-old son, Carter, and Annika's 14, and I have a 10-year-old son. So yeah, I'm kind of razzed as being maybe a little way too spiritual. Maybe I am. I don't think so. I don't think it's like spirituality. I mean, I do sound maybe a little frou-frou. Believe me, I am not the frou-frou type. It's taken a lot for me to get to this point, to even contemplate and think that that there are things we don't know. You know, I've always been convinced throughout my whole life you could know everything. I'm a very scientific mind. Prove it to me.
Yeah.
And there are just things that we don't know. There are things that we experience that we can't explain. And I am not about to question it, because when I have felt these things, and when I've honored that voice that doesn't speak to me in words, but it speaks to me in feeling and my heart, and it usually speaks in ways that are uncomfortable for me. It wants me to do things that make me very uncomfortable. But when I've done them, it's been right. And it's when I fight that really things start to go haywire. You know, I believe in the soul. And if anything, I think at this point in my life, I'm kind of in that dark night of the soul, if you will. You know, that maybe that passage into elderhood, where up to this point, you know, you live your life for your family, you have to have a career, you know, you just kind of go and you do what is expected of you. And believe me, I've done all that has been expected of me. Now's the time for me and for others. It's to start listening to your soul. What's expected of you? What are you called to do? What speaks to you? And so yeah, going back to your question, I've seen things, I've experienced things that I don't understand. And that's okay. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's okay to not know. And that's been the hardest thing for me, It's taken a while. Because frankly, all this stuff, if you would have asked me this 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, I would say it's all shit. You know, honestly, I'm not kidding. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place. It's turbulent. It's not easy. But I love where my life is taking me, and it feels right. It feels good, and this kind of work is a large part of it. It's not everything, and I'm discovering that too, but it is a large part of it.
Yeah. What are like people's responses? So you're with somebody maybe you get to know them for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and then you sit with them as they die. And then, but are you also going to people who like maybe you've never met them before, and they're like, and you get a call, Angela, that this lady's probably has about 4 hours to go. Can you come in? Do you get that kind of thing also?
Yeah, and that's a lot of what happens with at Eskenazi with No One Dies Alone. It's really that sitting so that no one has to be alone at the end of life. Now, understand, not everybody wants somebody there either. That's another interesting thing. But
that's what I was going to like kind of ask about next. Go ahead and finish that thought.
Yes. No, you can go ahead and ask. I mean, yeah, it's in that situation, it's simply all about, as I stated before, it's all about just being present to the fullest extent that you can, or that I can, and everybody's experience and how they go into that is going to be different. And there's not one way that's right or one way that's not. Again, you can never know what a person truly wants or needs at that time, except for, you can get a sense if you can step out of yourself, you can get a sense for whether you should be touching that person or not. It's really about sensing, and you don't always get it right. I've not always gotten it right. I've made mistakes too, but it's okay. We're all just doing the best we can.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day. I remember one of the times I saw you at White Pine. You were outside, and you kind of have like this like an ethereal kind of presence, I think. And it was like you were out in the yard, and you were like walking towards the building or something, and we were about to like chat or something, and like I could almost like see through you. It was like just like this ethereal kind of thing, and like you have, Angel is in your name, and you have. So I was like thinking, okay, imagine I'm this person, and I have like that I'm gonna die. I know I'm gonna die tonight. And then in walks this person named Angela, and so I'm like, and maybe they've known you for a long time. Maybe they just met you. It's like, so that they're having like this, they're in this like different state of consciousness also. So I don't know what my question is exactly, but it just like, I guess, what is their responses? Are they like giving you like feedback that they think that you're something other than just, I don't know why this broad is hanging out with me right now, or like like wow, this is something like this really powerful thing is happening. This woman named Angela is coming in and sitting with me as I die. It's like this.
I'm trying to think of how to answer this. First of all, you're okay. I'm still trying to kind of get over the description of being able to be seen through. I know I have a wet face. My emotions aren't, I can't hide them very well, but on a practical matter, whenever I'm with somebody, I do let them know I'm there. Now, every death is different. Everybody's going to go through it differently. Typically, when somebody is at the end of life, they are mostly unconscious. They may be agitated. Their breathing is varied. We don't know what they know. It is said, though, that the last thing to go is hearing. So the most important thing in my mind is to always be respectful of what that person can hear. And I have an interesting story. I went to see a gentleman once. God, he was a beautiful man. He knew he was dying. He was still very much aware and speaking, and but he didn't have much time. And I happened to be sitting with him. I only was with him maybe, I think it was twice, excuse me. And I was sitting next to his bed, and there was a social worker there and his wife. And the social worker and his wife were kind of having an argument. His wife was very distraught. They'd been together for many, many years. And he turns to me while they're having this kind of bickering back and forth. And he goes, my hearing and sight have improved. And I think he passed like a week and a half to 2 weeks after this. And how wonderful for somebody to be able to articulate, what we've all kind of been taught, that the hearing is the last to go, but his sight had actually gotten better too. So, but the other thing he asked me was, do you believe in God? And that was the question I did not want to hear. Of all the questions you would get, that's a really, that was one I was scared of. And so I kind of told him, I'm like, this is one of those instances where I was like, oh, I made a mistake. I'm like, I don't believe in the old man in the sky, kind of thing. I said, but, I do believe there's something bigger. And he proceeded to tell me, well, I do believe in the old man in the sky. And he proceeded to tell me why. And he then got involved in the conversation with his wife and the social worker. I moved and went to the other side of the bed, and they were continuing their discussion. And then he turns to me again and he continues his conversation with me about God. And I think the reason I was there that day was so he could share his thoughts about the afterlife and where he was going and what he believed in, and to share that with someone else, to tell his story. If anything, that's the only reason I was there. I didn't need to be anything. I could have been, you could have been there, right? But he needed to tell his story. It's things like that. It's never about me. That's why you drop the me. You have to drop it. You got to let it go. It has to be about them, right? You start bringing your stuff in, and you're going to miss the gifts. And I feel like it is a gift to be there, right? It is. There are things that are revealed in that if you're not there, you're going to miss it. So.
Yeah. I wonder what they see, because there's like some, I've heard, I used to drive a cab. I drove a cab for like 7 years, and I did mostly like during the day, a lot of like medical transportation, and I would take people to their doctor's appointment, hospitals. Sometimes I might have been the first person that they told. They just found out they had cancer. They get in the cab, I'm taking them home, or I'm taking them to their cancer treatments, maybe every day, every week, every month, whatever it is. And I learned that people want to tell their story. And I was like kind of amazed sometimes at what people would tell me. And like one person was, I think they were going to see like a friend of theirs in like the nursing home or something like that. And her friend didn't get hardly any visitors at all. But she thought she did. Like her friend would show up and she'd say, did you have any visitors? And she'd talk about seeing her mom and her sister and her cousin and her friend and all these people were coming to visit her that were dead.
Yeah.
But as far as people that were alive, it was like she had like dementia, I guess you could say, or maybe that's an arguable term. Maybe sometimes maybe they just checked into a different frequency and but yeah, so like seeing like what they see. So with the moment that my dad died, he like tensed up, like making like fist and just like everything like tensed up just before, and then he checked out, and the nurse said something about like, oh, that's the nervous system doing something, but what popped into my mind was that like he saw his mom. That's what I thought. And I don't know, I can't say like why I thought that, but that was like what was in my mind at that time. Not like, oh, it must be some, scientific thing, some nerve thing or some, it was just like, he could see that like his mom or maybe somebody else. But I thought it was his mom. I didn't think it was anybody else. I just saw it as like his mom, like, okay, this is where you're going now. And so do you see like the same like things happening or like things that like repeat that like maybe the nurse says it's one thing. And I did find that like the nurses and stuff, they're not always just like, here's science, this is written in science book, this is what's happening. It's like in the book that they give you, it's like you have to give them permission to die. They need to know, because they'll just keep hanging on. Like, how does that work? How can you keep hanging on? You have to give them permission. It's okay for you to move on. And, like the nurse, like, oh, my mom that died, 10 years ago today, I think she helps people transition. And they have the spiritual points of view also. But I guess the question is like, what do you like? You said you do like to see these like recurring things. Like, what are those, and like, what do you?
Well, I mean, I think there are both scientific and otherwise explanations. It is very common to see loved ones or other people in the room, and if your intuition was telling you that your father saw his mother, he did. You're part of that. You're part of that lineage too. You were there, right? You're connected with them. As well.
Yeah. This was my dad's coffee cup. This table that my laptop is sitting on was his mom's. She died while my mom was pregnant. This table that I'm working on is like 100 years old. It was in my mom's kitchen, and then she gave it to me. And so it was like, I never met her, but here's her table. She sat at this table. This was her table, and then this is my dad's mug, and so it's like, and so go on with your.
No, I was just you're better than a nurse in that instance, right? What's there? You were. There are both explanations, and in this kind of work, it is very common for someone who is transitioning to see others that we can't see. Now, we can say they're not there, but how do we know that? Honestly, we don't, right? Again, the mystery. I remember sitting with beautiful woman that I sat with every week. And, you know, it wasn't as even like, you know, this was like a couple months before, you know, she finally passed away. But, you know, we'd be talking and having our tea and our scones like we always did. And she would like, she leaned over to me and she's like, do you think we should ask them to come and sit down? And I'm like, well, you know, what if you think they'd be more comfortable, why don't you? You know, she didn't, but you know, she's like, she didn't even know who was there, but she's like, should we ask them to sit down? You know, they're just standing there. You know, I'm not going to tell her they're not there. Who am I to say, right? Just as in, you know, working with people with dementia, you know, why are you going to tell them, you know, something that they're seeing or experiencing isn't real? You know, as long as it's not harming anyone, go along with it. This is their reality, you know. They may come back around. They may see that maybe it isn't eventually, you know, but we don't know. And I believe there are both scientific explanations and otherwise, you know. For what we can explain scientifically, there is an otherwise, you know. And we have generations and generations and thousands of years of stories, and you know, to tell us that is so, you know. I don't want to explain away kind of that mystery and a little bit of that faith, because I think a lot of that's born out of fear, you know. And if anything, I would love to see fear diminished, you know, rather than even culturally, you know, we have a great fear of what we don't know and don't understand. But, you know, that's because who's telling the story? You know, who's telling the story? Who's telling the positive story? Who's talking about death even? You know, we are taught that death is a bad thing. We don't want it. Yet every single one of us is going to succumb to it. Yeah. You know, that's one thing we can all be sure of. So why aren't we talking about death so we can better live our lives? You know, what's really important? I could be gone tomorrow. You know, I would love, and I'm not always doing it right. I am the most imperfect person, and I get a lot more wrong than I get right. You know, but I want to live my life. I want to feel. And if anything, my life at this point is about how do I maximize what I feel in life, and how can I make others feel too, you know, and then feel that they're beautiful, feel their beauty. I shouldn't say beautiful. Beautiful is different than beauty, but there's beauty in this world, in this life. And we should all be, we shouldn't all, that's a terrible thing to say. I would love for others to be able to see the beauty that's in themselves and their lives. That's what we're here for. Otherwise, you know, why are we in this physical form? You know, okay, there I go. I'm being spiritual again, but I've been spiritual this whole time, I guess. But, you know, there's something to that, you know?
Yeah. I tell this story kind of a lot, but the day after, well, from the time I was like a real little kid, my dad would take me to Brown County State Park and a lot of other parks, like the National Forest and stuff. But like Brown County was our main spot. We'd go there like almost every weekend and camp, and I mean, hundreds and hundreds of times, many hundreds of times. And he could see, his favorite birds were woodpeckers, and he could see them from really far away. and he would try to point them out to me, and I couldn't see them. And and this went on until I was so he died in 2005. I'm 39, so that's 14 years ago, 25, whatever it was. No, 25. And up until a few months before he died, he would take me, and then it was like, and taking my kids and our dogs, and we go to Brown County, and he's like, oh, look, you see that woodpecker over there? And maybe it's 100 feet away, 1,000 feet away. I had no idea. I couldn't see it. And then the day after he died, I had a few buddies over training martial arts. Mm-hmm. And when we were done, we were talking in my driveway, and I was looking over at this bird on my fence. I'm like trying to like pay attention to my buddies, and we're talking, and I kept looking over at this bird on my fence, and finally I asked, I was like, what kind of bird is that? And my buddy Mike said, that's a woodpecker. I was like, okay. And it was like, okay, that's clearly my dad showing me that he's not gone, and there's more than this world than what we can see. So I couldn't see the woodpeckers. So these are things that you don't have to be spiritual to believe in them. There's woodpeckers.
Yeah.
He would also take me to where the gnomes and elves live in Brown County. And and it's like in these different spots, and it's like, okay, a lot of people can know that if they believe or whatever, that gnomes can live in trees, hollowed out trees. Mm-hmm. And then, but he would take me into the pines. Like in the pines, they had something different, and I could see their homes. And I was like, I couldn't see them. I couldn't see the woodpeckers either. So it's like this world and the next it's like this. It's all the same thing. We can't see. I can see you. You're in Bloomington, and there's like these weird wireless things going on. I can't see them. And so I see the woodpecker the day after he died. Now I can see it. And I ended up losing my job the day after my dad's funeral. And but I got like really into birds, and I got like woodpecker suet and other kinds of bird food, and I'd smear like peanut butter and almond butter and stuff on this big, I think it was a white pine tree, soft needle pine tree in my front yard, really tall. Mm-hmm. And it became like the Grand Central Station for woodpeckers and all kinds of other birds. And so I would just like sit there, and I'd usually, like a lot of times I was sitting inside so I could look out the window and not be like something that scares them away. Right. And like the big pileated woodpeckers. And I found out, I learned that it was a red-bellied woodpecker that was on my fence the next day. And flickers and downies, and it was just all day long, tons of woodpeckers. And then I became the one that can see woodpeckers from far away. So I would take my kids, and I'd be able to see a little glimpse out of the corner of my eye, and like, oh, look, there's a woodpecker. And so you were talking about your mom coming to you like in this dream, and
Mm-hmm.
do you like still get like signs? Because it's not like every woodpecker I see, oh, that's my dad, oh, look, my dad. Right. Like it's just like sometimes. But still not often. But now I have this thing. So do you have? And you said your life was different since then. So like in what way is that? Is it different?
I love the woodpecker story, and it's such a great way to honor your father too, and I love that he comes to you that way, and that now you see them. It's a great, it's a beautiful story. Well, I think my life has changed in that, I feel the real reason is because I feel like I saw something that maybe I wasn't supposed to see. I went into this place. And, I often wonder, did I die that morning? Because I've read accounts of end-of-life, near-death experience. Anita Moorjani, Dying to Be Me, is a book that I read a few months after I had that dream. And she described where she went, and that was exactly what I had experienced. I've heard other accounts, and they're the same. Did I die that morning? You know, did something happen in my brain? Did I have a stroke? You know, did I cry so hard that, you know, something physiological happened to me? I don't know. I mean, I kind of joke about it. You know, I was dropped on my head as a baby, maybe, you know, something, something happened there. Maybe I've always been a little touched that way. I don't know. I would love to live my life as if I have no fear, but I do. I still have plenty of it, plenty enough for, you know, an army. But I feel there's a knowing of something bigger, you know, and that when I leave here, that somehow we are all connected, you know. It's not even me leaving here. I don't even know what that means, honestly. But I sense connection, right? Not just with people, but I've always been one that's been connected with trees, for instance. You know, as a kid, I can't explain it, you know, and even today, you know, there's something about trees that I can't explain. I feel a deep connection to them. When I go out, and I try to go out as often as possible. I was out on a hike this morning, and I actually swam in the lake. Oh, don't tell anybody, I wasn't supposed to. No swimming allowed. Going out into the forest has been kind of a necessary thing for me since all of that, you know. And I think there's this need for not only connection with other people, but connection with all living things, even rocks, you know. It's another thing. I don't know. I just feel like on an energetic, we are all energy, right? And we all run maybe different vibrations, if you will, different speeds. I run on geological time. I'm not one who can fit into this fast-paced world. I've never fit into it. And maybe that's another reason why working with the dying is such a good fit for me, because time changes. Time slows down. Time almost, it doesn't cease to exist, but it's in a different place. It's different. Time is different. And I feel at home there. You know, I feel like when I walked into the hospice facility where my mom was, I felt like I arrived at home, because there was a palpable difference when you walk through those doors, that somehow time changed. And I am very comfortable in that time. And I feel that same sense of time when I'm out by myself, out in the woods or by the water. You know, time can change. It's not this consistent thing. It's not time on a clock. It changes somehow. So I don't know if I got to your question. How my life has changed. I think part of it has to do with time. I see time differently. I've even had a dream about time that illustrated that for me. And that was a very powerful dream. But I think the recognition that I am comfortable in a different kind of time was huge for me. You know, because yeah, that's real for me.
What was the dream?
Hard to explain. It came with a song.
A song?
It came with words and a little bit of a melody to a song. But it was about there was this image of almost like a newsreel, you know, and you're in there are all these different rooms essentially, and you're running alongside like this reel of film, you know, the old reels of film, you know, where you've got each square and it's kind of running and it's just going like this, and me running alongside that moving reel of film, running, you know, you're running until you find that place and you can drop into one of those boxes, those reels, and it's a room, and when you find that place that you can drop into, it was like this release. It's like finding your place and finding your speed, like we're all running. I guess it's really hard to explain, but one of the things that I came to was how time sort of speeds up a little bit maybe as we get older. You know, a bull roar?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you spin a bull roar slowly, it doesn't do much. It's just this piece of wood or whatever's on a string spinning around. You speed that thing up, and what do you get? You get song, right? You get something beautiful. You get a calling to the ancestors. And even though as we're getting older, time seems to speed up, this is where we find our voice. This is where we find our calling to soul and our ancestors. And I don't think that made any sense to you, but it certainly made sense to me. And it was very hard to explain, but yeah, I think if anything has changed for me, that it's certainly been my sense of time and my understanding that time isn't just one thing. Time changes, and time is not constant, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. What were the words to the song?
I have them written down.
I can hit pause if you want to get them. I'm curious.
I prefer not to share, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
I think certain things are.
Can you say what it was about, like the gist of it, or I mean, if not, that's okay too.
It was about running, really, running home. Running home. The chorus was running. I'm running home to you. And gosh, yeah, and I don't know who that you is, you know. I think that the you is maybe me. I don't know. Maybe it's something bigger. I don't know. And maybe the definition of that, when I just thought of those words and the tune that it came with, and it's very powerful.
Do you like play an instrument? Do you actually play this song somehow?
No, I haven't played that one because I haven't figured out how the rest of it goes. There's only the chorus that I know how it goes. I've got the words, but I don't know how to sing the rest of it. And one of these days, I'm sure it'll come to me, and then I may sing it.
Do you play piano or anything?
No. I played the French horn in middle school, and that's about it. I sing, and I've started to sing. That's been kind of my the way to cleanse my soul, if you will, recently. But no instrument, no physical instrument.
So when you heard this song in the dream, where was it coming from?
Ooh, really good question.
Like, was there someone in your dream singing it, or was it just?
No. It was just there for me to catch, and I didn't catch the whole thing, at least not the tune. I just caught that one little piece. So who knows, maybe there's another dream to come where I can catch the rest, or maybe that's all I get.
Do you write your dreams down?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do too. I try to do it regularly, and I recently started a different job, and it's throwing off my sleep schedule. It throws off the dreams, it's throwing everything off. But it's kind of interesting to look back, and I don't even remember writing this stuff down, some of it.
Yeah.
But
right.
my dad comes to me in my dreams very regularly. He played guitar and sang. He sounded kind of like Elvis without trying to do an Elvis impersonation. He'd sing Elvis songs and other stuff.
Yeah.
And I heard him play guitar and sing in my dreams. And yeah, dreams are, yeah, it kind of gives us that connection to that other world. So
some of the songs you've been playing, because I noticed you've been recording little bits and pieces of your songs, are some of those songs that you've caught in your dreams?
No. Let's see, I think one of them was one I wrote, and then a couple other ones are just sort of like variations of some like Spanish classical stuff that I've played for a long time. I hadn't been playing very consistently for a while, so I'm like just trying to get back into being more consistent and then getting better, because I kind of hit a plateau where the stuff I was trying to play was really complicated, and it would take me forever to learn just a little bit. And so it was just like, and I kept like just playing the same things over and over again and not really getting better or anything. So I'm trying to kind of like get back into it, because I can like record it, put it on Instagram, and it's it doesn't sound like, for the most part, I'm okay with it, but I can hear myself messing up a lot and not.
Nobody else can hear that.
Oh.
Nobody else can hear that. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm. Yeah, maybe it's like it'd be nice to have like some dreams and then have it come to me that way, or like lyrics and stuff. And that would be an interesting subject. I'd like for that to happen. I'll have to invite that in somehow.
Yeah, well, just, I think you're doing the right thing, writing things down still. And my dreams have kind of slowed down a little bit. I'm kind of in this, I don't know. I had a period of time where it was, oh gosh, everything was almost too much. And now I'm in a slow spot, which is probably good. It's probably what I need right now. So, mystery, right? Mystery. Yeah. Love the mystery.
Yeah. So when you're like sitting with these people, and whether they're like just about to check out, or maybe it's like months ahead, like, do you like hear them like say that, like, common things like, oh, I wish I would have done more of this in my life, or like, or do you like ask them for, like, if you have advice for people, what is that advice when you're getting ready to you have, because it's one thing, like, yeah, I might get in an accident later on today, and maybe today's my last day, maybe I'll be 100, and who knows what's going to happen. But are there like recurring themes? Like, do you ask people, like, what do you wish people would know, whether it's about themselves or like life advice in general? Or
to be quite honest, I haven't done a whole lot of that, because I've kind of let them lead where they want to go. Not everybody is comfortable even accepting that they are coming to an end, honestly, most of it has been listening to their stories, And they can be the same stories over and over again. But these are the stories that have defined their lives. These are some of the happiest times they've had. Certainly the most impactful on their lives. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sharing them. And there's a gentleman I've been seeing who, you know, he's not even telling his stories anymore, you know, and that's okay too. It's so no, I
What's he
can't
doing?
say
What's he doing? What if he's not telling his stories anymore? Like, what's he doing?
he's forgotten them, I think. And so sometimes it's just enough just to be there. You know, sometimes you don't have to talk. You know, we could talk or not talk for hours. Sorry, I just had to bring that in from Best in Show. But, you know, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk or not talk. And if you've been with somebody a while, sometimes the not talking is okay. You know, I don't try to make work of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, I don't feel like that's my place to make work of it. You know, and it's, you know, I just kind of, yeah. I don't know that there's anything more I can say about that.
Yeah. So how is it, like the whole thing, you've been at this, you said 4 years now?
Yeah.
So is it like changing how, like your daughter saying that you're too spiritual? Is it like, how is it like changing what your, like your daily life, like, or your like spiritual beliefs or whatever they are? Is it like
Well, that's a really good question. I don't know that it's, I don't know if it's changing my beliefs in any way. I don't know. I think it's just a part of my life now, you know, and my kids accept it, you know. I mean, if I'm going to be gone for the evening, you know, because if I need to go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night because I've got to get up at, you know, 11:30 or something so I can head out to sit with somebody, you know, they get it, you know, they know I'm a hospice person. So in terms of my family life, it's kind of been integrated into it, you know. I suppose it's always changing my life, maybe is really the answer, you know. Yeah. Again, it's just about being open to what may come, because there's no one way, there's no defined, you just don't know what you're going to get, you know, when you walk into a situation. So, and maybe it's just made me a little bit more open to the not knowing, you know. It's been good training for me in a way, you know, for my life to be a lot more flexible and not knowing where I'm going or what's going to happen.
Are you seeing like young people also?
No, not currently, although that is my my wish is actually to work with children that are dying and their families. I'm a volunteer at Riley now, and I haven't been given my assignment. They know what I would like to do. I have a feeling I'm going to need to kind of do the regular stuff for a while. You know, that's delicate stuff. I am working with a woman out in Seattle who's trying to start a children's hospice out there. So I think that's kind of my long-term dream. If I had a dream, it would be to have some land and, you know, have a place where sick and dying kids can come for a little bit, and maybe have a yurt, you know, have them be outdoors. You know, that would be my ultimate dream, is to have some kind of sacred space where kids can just be a kid, you know, to the extent possible, you know.
Yeah. Well, without like mentioning specifics, you know, like where we know each other from, if you came up with something like that, you probably have a place where you could set something up. I think
Possibly.
that would be
Yeah.
that would be an amazing thing to happen there.
It would be. It would be.
So
Yeah.
that would be just an idea. But yeah, I'm like about out of questions. I feel like I could talk to you about it for hours and hours. But is there anything else you're wanting to like get into before we stop? Or
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't know. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you. It's been nice.
Yeah. It's
so, you know, again, this is just an area that I'm really interested in, and more for the, I guess, the way I wish maybe to continue with some of this. I on a volunteer basis, I certainly hope to continue. I'm really interested in ritual and ceremony as well, and around living and maybe death, right? Yeah, and so I'm trying to find my place, you know, where I can be of assistance perhaps to others, you know, who have questions about this. I mean, we're all just kind of flailing out there, you know. So yeah, but no, I just thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. It's a really cool subject and a very like powerful thing that you do, and so we can wrap it up then. And so, is there like some like last thoughts you want to leave people with?
Last thoughts. There truly is nothing that I do that is special. It is simply being there for another human being. And Ryan, you would be fantastic at it, right? If you wanted to do that, don't let the testing and all that hold you back. You know, if that's something you're thinking of doing, we're all capable. We are all that person, you know. And so yeah, just follow what your soul is calling you to do. That's what I would say. Listen and honor it, you know, because it'll take you places you could, for as rich of an imagination as I have, I've been brought to places that I could never ever imagine I'd be. So yeah, those are my last words.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it. Thanks again for coming on. So do you have anything to like promote or anything?
Not really. No, Not at this time. I don't. No.
Okay.
I just want, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on, and you have open invitation to be on whenever you want. If there's like something else that you think of on this subject or other subjects or whatever you want, just let me know. And it's as simple as that.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. Thank you.
Good talking with you.
I'm going to pause the recording and then I'll talk to you for a second.
Okay.